Yeah, what thumbnail should we have?
Um,
Um, wow, nice.
and welcome to the Conscious Experience. My name is Boris, and today I'm here with Mike. How are you, brother?
I feel good. Today we will talk about the best topic. There's a reason we started this channel. I think it's the reason we're friends. It's the
Yes,
foundational core of all benefit. Like if we were to pick one thing to focus on, this would be the thing to benefit all aspects of your life. So today we are talking about,
meditation.
yeah, it's
Meditation.
it's a broad word. I think a lot of people define it in different ways. So hopefully we can give you enough context in this episode to help. Maybe if you're listening to this, I'm sure a lot of you don't meditate. I'm sure a lot of you have tried it and fell off the bandwagon. I know I can definitely relate with that. So hopefully after this episode, it'll even inspire me to take on a little bit more consistent of a practice. And yeah, good.
Beautiful.
Do you want to preface it with anything before we start?
Yeah. Well, I think that we should maybe kick it off, and in the midst of it, we'll share some meditation experiences and breakthroughs. But I think let's start with talking about what is meditation. What is it really? What do we mean when we're talking about that?
Mm-hmm.
What would you
So
say?
I think just like our relationship podcast, just like defining relationship, defining love, I feel like meditation is the concept has changed for me over time. I think if
Mm.
you were to ask me right now, I would say probably along the lines of meditation is your ability to focus on one specific thing consciously with intention, without other thoughts or distractions entering your mind. So I would say on one level it's that, but we can get into different levels of what that means.
Okay, cool. That sounds like a technique, an approach to meditation. I would say that the meditation itself is a way for you to become familiar with yourself, with the truth, to basically be able to discern what is the truth about myself, about my life, about a topic. I would say that this is what meditation really is it's a way of gaining insight, knowledge, wisdom, and it really can be about just about anything.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like the technique that I'm talking about is literally just one form of meditation. I guess it's known as concentration meditation. And so the different forms that we'll talk about will get you to the place that Boris is mentioning, which is knowledge of self. Um, so now that we've kind of defined our versions of what is meditation, why should people meditate, Boris?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to your awesome opening. Is just like it's literally something that benefits every aspect of your life. So meditation in its true form, when it is sincere, meditation really opens up our awareness. Like we become more sensitive to what is happening both within ourselves, in our relationships, in the world. We become more sensitive to ideas that kind of trickle in, inspirations, insights, guidance, and direction. I would say that that is a very big aspect of meditation is how it sensitizes our awareness to even sometimes subtle experiences. Emotional intelligence, I think, has its root in this level of sensitivity, in this level of heightened awareness. Um, Communication, ability to read people, ability to really know what works for you and what doesn't, what your needs are, like all that really becomes the fuel for various forms of conflict in our lives. I would say is primarily a lack of clarity. So meditation is something that really turns up the light, the wick of awareness, and becomes brighter, and you suddenly see, oh my god, that thing that I was so afraid of, I thought it was a snake, turns out it's a rope. I think that's the kind of the beneficence of meditation.
Mm-hmm. I think it puts you in a familiar territory with the spaciousness of reality, the spacious silence. Or for those of you that resonate with the word God, it allows you to know God a little bit better or know yourself a little bit better, capital S. Um, I always say like that space, becoming familiar with that space is like the number one thing that you can do, because that space is consuming every single moment. There is not a
Yeah.
moment where space does not exist. So um
In Buddhism, they talk about refuge, taking refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, in the Sangha, which is basically just taking refuge in the teaching of meditation, essentially. Refuge from what? Refuge essentially from craving and aversion, from suffering, refuge from turmoil. Well, where's that coming from? The bulk of our suffering really comes from misunderstanding ourselves, our own needs, our own desires, misunderstanding others, projecting and not knowing that we're projecting, acting and not knowing that we're acting. I think this is really the core. Like, if we really think about very basic level of meditation, like, let's say the very popular right now is mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is simply this. It's like breathing in. I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out. I know I'm breathing out. So it is being knowingly. So because so many times I think this makes sense what I'm talking about. So many times we are in action, in drive, but we don't really know. We're not cognizant of what we're doing. And then boom, we run into an experience and we either like it or don't like it. And great. And then we react to it in either way, with craving or aversion. But meditation teaches us this artful way to be able to really engage consciously, to knowingly choose our words, to knowingly act, to knowingly listen. It's almost like this increased sense of presence, which benefits, gosh, like every aspect of your life. Like, isn't our business better when we're present to it and we're aware? Our relationships, our own emotional well-being, like our everything, benefits from presence. And I think that this is another core gift of meditation, is it sharpens and illuminates our presence.
nice. I love what you're saying. There's a term in Buddhism, I guess, known as the monkey mind. I'm sure everybody can relate. And it's that most of people, like you said, are either craving or avert or running away from something. So I've always looked at, whenever I learned about the monkey mind, I've always had this visual of like the mind being the most important tool, and just imagining wherever you think the mind is, I picture like a brain. And this most important tool of us, our lives, is like running us as opposed to us using it as a tool. So the ability to just place your mind down, rest in silence, and then approach your mind consciously and intentfully use it for certain purposes, like the benefit of your life in many different areas, just by bringing awareness into it. So
I
um
appreciate what you're saying here. There's a really cool nuance I want to highlight. It's like choice. We had that episode that we did on free will versus fate, right? And there we talked about choice. What is choice really? And do we have free will? It's like when we are caught up in a program, when we are compulsively doing something, like running after us, oh, I want it, I can't live without it. Or, oh my God, I can't stand this, and we are between these polarities. We don't actually have choice. It may seem like, oh yeah, I'm a choice, but no, you're only free to choose what you like and free to like resist what you don't like. You don't have more choices beyond that when you are basically operating in this like default mode consciousness. But in meditation, it actually, as you rest in silence, and sometimes I just think about it as just simply listening to this moment, like this. As we are here, it's almost as if everything settles. Many times they talk about in classical meditation teachings as the mud settling in a glass of water, right? If we put mud in here and it's always being stirred up and I'm always shaking and always moving it, which is what the monkey mind really is this constant action. Want this, don't want that, right? Then the mud never settles. But when we be still, when we are in this meditation space and we're just like literally letting go of chasing and letting go of running away, the mud begins to settle. And we sometimes, for the first time, have the experience of choice, because for the first time, we get to see a pattern that we were running unconsciously. Like You may think, oh, my partner's always this way, blah, 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 blah. And you have this very clear story. It's exactly like this. But as you are meditating, suddenly this arises to you and you see it objectively. You see it from almost like a third person point of view. And suddenly you have choice. You're like, wow, I don't want to be like that. Or, I realize my responsibility in that dynamic. Yeah, she always goes off like this, but I say this. I see my part in it. And suddenly choice is illuminated where in the past there was no choice. You did something unconsciously, the person reacted, you blame them. And now suddenly we have this magnificent experience where we can choose, where we can see, and where we can act more and more knowingly.
I love your analogy of the mud. So many of us are like throwing more dirt and mud into this cup. Another analogy, I'll just end with another analogy, is like people can relate to, is like apps. We're subconsciously turning on all these different applications on your phone, aka your mind, without us knowing that it's building up. We have like thousands and hundreds of thousands of apps running, and meditation is basically turning off or temporarily closing all the apps, just like you do on your phone, so that you can consciously choose which one should be running in the back of your mind, whether you're aware of them or not.
Yes.
So Boris, how do you think people should get started meditating? Or how do you think you can meditate properly? It's an interesting question, and we don't normally phrase it that way, but this is the most searched for term on YouTube. How do you meditate properly?
Yeah. So meditation has like, it's just like exercise. So there are, and just like yoga, let's say, there are so many postures, right? There's like 108 or 44 or whatever postures in a classical yoga space. But then beyond that, also different forms of yoga, even. So you can say, what's the best posture for me to take? And it's like, the best posture is, I would say, the one that you will take. That is the very best one. It goes back also to even herbology, which is like using herbs for health. And what is the number one principle of herbology is that it is basically compliance. If you don't take the herb, it will not help you. That's is as basic as that. So I would say the most proper and best way is one that you are willing to commit to, that one that you're willing to comply with, that you feel is yours, that you feel there's a sort of a resonance with, that you believe in, that makes sense to you. Whatever way we find this in, but there has to be an in versus a resistance. There can still be a resistance because we will find that even long-term meditators can run into an experience of, I don't feel like, I don't even need to meditate, or something like this, or even run into resistance within a meditation. And that's normal. That's part of the experience, which we may expand into later. But the very best way is for you to find some degree where you can kind of lean in and you feel at choice. You feel like you're available for the benefit of it. I would maybe open like this. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's good. Maybe we can list some of the different forms of meditation, like concentration meditation, mantra meditation, just a quick list of them and what
Yeah.
they're about. And then again, the question is like, how do you think most people, let's talk to the majority, which practice do you think is the most available, maybe the most taught, maybe the one that you started with, and then I can share my experience as well.
Yeah. Well, let's run down, what are some meditation techniques, approaches to meditation, ways to meditate. There's, of course, the very classic technique, the Anapana meditation, right? Is associated often with Buddhism, but of course, it's all over the world. It is the meditation on the breath, on the sensations of the breath. So we're feeling as we're breathing in, there's the cool air coming in, right? And you notice this. Typically, you're not noticing that there's cool air or warm air. So this is part of the meditation. So pay attention. So at the tip of your nose, at your nostrils, cool air coming in, warm air flowing out, and you're just there. So if you can just limit in these meditations, it's like it's about limiting the scope of your awareness. So you're not like, oh, cool air, oh, cats, oh, what am I going to eat? It's just like you're always coming back to this experience. Cats over here, what am I going to eat? But you don't care. You just stay with the breath. Cool air coming in, warm air flowing out. And this mindfulness breath meditation, I think, is a very, very solid foundation. It has a very beautiful benefit for the entire body, for the nervous system. This is mindfulness. And if anybody wants to look up mindfulness benefits on Google, you will see actually there's so many studies about what it does to the brain coherence, how it calms the nervous system, how it helps to regulate sleep-wake cycles, like all kinds of things. So that's one. Maybe we can alternate. What's one that you would like to share?
I do agree that that is probably the most available one. This is the one that I started with. I'll just share a quick story on that one. So the way I got into meditation many years ago was I went with our mutual friend Sunny. There was this Buddhist monk teaching in the local city that we were in, and he was also teaching Anapana meditation, the one that you just shared. A slight variation of it in that we only did it for, I think it was like 5 minutes. He's like, we're going to sit here for 5 minutes, and we are going to focus on the air coming in to our nose and the air coming out of our nose. And anytime you notice a thought, let's say cats or a sound over there or the temperature, it was a really hot day, I remember. He's like, just notice that you thought a thought and maybe just count like one and then two. And then I remember finishing that 5 minutes and I look over to Sunny and I go, dude, I had like 21 thoughts. And then he looks over and he's like, dude, I had like 70 something. I forget the number, like 76. And in that moment, I said, wow, for 5 minutes, we had so many distracting thoughts. What, like, that was 5 minutes, let alone our entire life. Like, our entire life has been lived unconsciously, you know, with thoughts coming into our head without us intentionally choosing them. So that was a profound experience. In terms of some other meditations that I've experienced along my journey, one comes to mind is mantra meditation. So this is using sound. Instead of focusing on the air coming in and out of your nose, you're focusing on a sound. And typically they will give you a sound from your teacher. He'll mention a specific sound that resonates with your being or whatever it is. Don't go paying $3,000 for those. I don't recommend that. Yeah, there's other ways that you can learn that. You could choose anything really. You could create a sound like cat, or something like that.
And there's of course, like, you know, there are the classical mantras that come to us from the Hindu tradition, right? Even Buddhist tradition. So like in Hinduism, of course, the very popular one, Om, right? It's like so there's the meditation where you just like repeat a word in your mind, like, you know, love, 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 or peace, you know, and you are just with that, and hopefully you're also penetrating it. It's almost more like a contemplative meditation, and you are becoming peace, you're becoming love. But then there's also ones that are you know, that we don't necessarily make a meaning as we say them, like for example, Om Mani Padme Hum, which is a Buddhist one, right? It's something, it's basically a chant about opening to our divine nature. But as you sit there, you can also begin to do it out loud. It's like Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And as you're going in this, it's almost like that meditation can lead you into a trance state where you basically almost notice that it becomes automatic. The chanting becomes automatic. You notice that actually all of life is automatic. You notice that, oh, this effortlessness. So this is about also gleaning some truth. So these are mantra meditations, and many of the mantras have specific intentions, specific. They're almost like code in a way, where they connect you to specific. They could be to a specific deity in one of the pantheons. It could, which represents a particular quality of consciousness. Or it could have a specific intention. Like, for example, there's also mantras for each one of the chakras, different, you know, like lung, you know, and it resonates one of the energy centers. So there's many different ways actually with mantras that can be very powerful. But I consider this like an adjunct to meditation. It is something like you could use it actually to get into meditation. You could use a mantra. You could, for example, Om for like 5 minutes and then meditate. And your experience is going to be like incomparable, because you're going to be in this incredible stillness, like energy open. And I want to mention this here while it's on my mind. It's like I learned from one of I would consider kind of my mentor in terms of like he's a guy from Russia. His name is Dmitry Lapshinov, and he really focuses on the energetics. I think it's also called Raja Yoga, which is like where you use the energy, uh, skillfulness, the mastery over energy to achieve enlightenment. And he mentioned this is like novices use meditation for relaxation. Experts use relaxation to meditate, right? To enter into meditation. So yeah, maybe I'll pause here. Yeah, so we covered also mantras now.
And like you're saying, these are like code pieces of code that you put into yourself or vibrations. They resonate at a certain frequency. So everybody can resonate with when I say low vibrating people versus high vibrating people. And so you can think of these little sounds as code that enters your body. And like you're saying, uh, most people that use mantra are exactly what you said, which is they use it to get into meditation. If they cannot instantly close their eyes and enter a state of stillness and move into that, then they use these as almost like I don't want to say distractions, but a way that you can focus on something so intently. In yoga, it's called dharana, your like ability to focus one pointedly, single like pointed. You can think of like a dot on a piece of paper. Can you focus on that dot so intently that everything else fades away? And then eventually, like if you're saying a mantra like aing, 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 or something like that, that even that sound will turn into a subtle pulse. It may start off very gross, like you saying it in your mind. You might even want to say, usher it out loud, which then becomes a japa. So you might go into certain meditation styles where they usher words out loud. Like in the Sikh tradition, they go Wahe Guru, Wahe Guru, Wahe
Mm.
Guru. And then eventually that becomes a pulsation in your mind. It becomes such a subtle pulsation that eventually that pulsation disappears. And what you're left with is the entrance into meditation. So
I love this. This
uh,
is so good. And I want to also say a corollary to uh, mantras are yantras. And yantra is something like this. So it is about uh, the shape. So it is a visual meditation. And when you started to say about the dot on the page, this is actually very powerful meditation to literally like put a dot on your wall or on a page and you're like gazing at this dot to the exclusion of everything else. This is cool. But when you use some of these symbols like this, various yantras, they basically are also frequencies. They are also mantras, basically, but they are in the visual realm. They are they stimulate you and your brain and your nervous system and your consciousness like mantras do, but through your eyes. And so part of the way that you can work with something like a yantra is that you gaze at it and you typically gaze into its center. Many of them have a what is it called, like a drishti point right at the center, right there. So you gaze there and you allow this image to saturate your awareness. You let go of everything else, and then you close your eyes and you see if you can still see it. You're basically still within that visual mode again. And then maybe it fades away and you open your eyes and you come back to it. So this is another way actually of using our visual sense to work with meditation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that we're sharing so many different ways, and it's exactly what you started this answer or to the question of like, how do you meditate properly? We have so many ways. Like again, I think I mentioned in a previous episode, the Vigyan Bhairav of Tantra, one of the most famous books of Tantra, has 108 different ways. So if one of the ways, like I think it starts off with the one that we mentioned, which is Anapana, the one focusing on your inhale and exhale. But again, 100 different ways. So choose the one that works for you. I'll just end with one more that I can think of, which just is a more gross form, which is just a walking meditation. So this is you consciously walking a little bit more slowly. And what are you focusing on? Well, you could be focusing on the sensation of your foot, your heel touching the floor, followed by the middle of your foot, and then the front of your foot. So anything, a lot of these are, I guess, fall in the realms of concentration meditations. Is there any that else that you can think of? Anything else?
And I think we can mention this is my most personal favorite way to meditate, one that resonates most with me. And this meditation, we can call it awareness meditation or, yeah, awareness of awareness is one name, pure awareness meditation, awareness. Yeah, awareness, aware of awareness. So this is what we're talking about here is a meditation that has no object, no no, so what we've talked about as the breath, as sound like mantra, as the visual yantras, these are objects of meditation. And like Michael's mentioned, also walking. Yeah, so their object there is sensation, right? We've also been both in Vipassana meditation retreats, which is also a meditation on sensation, but you're just sitting there and you're watching, you're scanning your body up and down for sensation. And you're just, oh, tingling sensation, painful sensation, pleasant sensation. And you just move on. You just note them and you move on. Noting, by the way, is another form of meditation also, literally just to sit and to note what you are aware of, like what enters your awareness. I hear a sound, tingling on my back. And as you do this, this is also this is doing many different things. It's bringing your prefrontal cortex more online when you name things. It's getting you more present into this present moment in the now. It's like, okay, here, it's calming you down. So this is also a really powerful way. And it's also freeing your mind of those things. Many times it's like we have an intrusive thought or idea or something like that. But most of the time in our mind, we're kind of like, no, I don't want to deal with this right now. But if you instead say, okay, intrusive thought about leaving the door open, check, that releases it, that completes it. The Buddhists talk about this like incomplete experiences. So one of the ways that we can begin to complete, and not all of them will complete just by you noting them, but many will, many will. So back to like my favorite meditation, it's simply, sometimes it's also called in Zhao Chen, it's called just sitting. It's called just sitting. And what it is it's like you literally do nothing. You don't concentrate on anything. You are in pure receptivity. Just like notice awareness. Awareness is almost like a camera. There's something that is currently aware of me speaking, aware of your environment, aware of sensations through your body. But that awareness is not doing anything. It is already the perfected meditation, right? It is already where the meditator, which is what we identify with, basically like our ego, our individual self, the meditator is trying to get to this place where it is already perfect stillness. It is already all knowing. It is already complete. It is already beyond past and future or any other kind of like duality. So what we do is we just, by letting go of the different activity that we may engage in, we naturally begin to, just like the mud naturally begins to settle and the water becomes naturally clear without any activity, without doing anything. Of course, if you are tempted to keep grabbing the water, then you can just do this. And this is in a way like you putting attention on your breath. It's like, okay, yeah, okay, got it. If you're tempted to touch the water. But if you can be in a calm state, and if you can especially prepare yourself by like doing, let's say, 3 rounds of sun salutations like I did this morning, or like doing 5 minutes of Om, or just breathing, doing like some like Kapalapati, breath of fire, or something like this for a few minutes, you'll find a great clarity. And you then, if you just stop, it starts to come into view to you, this silence, the isness of this moment. And you just rest. Another name for this meditation is resting as awareness. And in fact, actually on this channel, I think about a year ago or so, I recorded a meditation like that. So you can check it out. It's called a pure awareness meditation.
Awesome. Beautiful. Let's see if we can add a little bit more to this to help people that are just looking to get started meditating. Boris, would you recommend apps like Headspace or Calm for people to get started? Would you recommend searching your local, maybe a Buddhist intro to meditation? Would you recommend going to a 10-day Vipassana? What would you recommend for people?
You know, it really just depends on the propensities of the person, right? For some people to think about going to a Buddhist temple to learn something is like the most off-putting thing, and it feels like they're, going into a cult or something. And for others, like meditation apps, seems like, maybe it's dorky or stupid or, something. So it's really, again, important to find the resonance of what makes sense for you. I have done all of them. I've gone to Buddhist temples. I've gone to meditation apps, Vipassana retreats. psychedelic
Guys,
retreats.
let's be
You're
honest.
like,
Boris is the best meditation teacher in this world. So just follow this channel, and I hope you will start putting out more meditations. Boris used to do meditations for our entire team when we had a company. We had like 120 people on our Slack, and every like week we would do meetings on Zoom, and everybody would be meditating to Boris. So if you want a simple solution, just follow Boris. I don't recommend the meditation apps, not to hate on Calm and Headspace, but they're literally just playlists with some random teacher teaching you something. I think there's better ways. I would prefer if you tried this in person, so it feels more real.
and I think that what you're saying is also like sometimes it's not just meditation. Like meditation is okay as a general concept, but sometimes it's connecting with a teacher, connecting with somebody who is offering something, and you're like, wow, I really resonate with this person. Like I want to learn from them. For me, this was very big. For me, people like Muji, like Rupert Spira, Francis Lucille, like these people, but Bentino even, like these people come into my awareness with this resonance. I'm like, there's something I feel like they understand. I want to understand this, and this inspired me to want to practice what they're teaching, practice the techniques, practice the guidance, and it also there's there's a kind of a sweet uh, component to work to being with a teacher. And I've had also in-person teachers. My very first teacher was she was a disciple of Osho, and she was in Vancouver, and I used to come and spend some evenings with her and the group. And the sweetness is in like many people who teach meditation from the heart, sincere people, like there is, they know the gift that is like unfolding, and they are there to like to not to do it for you, but to like deeply support you in it. And many times traditionally this is called the grace of the guru, right? It doesn't matter if the guru is like just one level above, so to speak, you in terms of experience. It's like it's just you being willing and available for it, and yeah, it supports you in this graceful way. You may be like, oh, but you're like, oh yeah, but Muji said no matter what, it's okay. Oh yeah, okay. And it allows you, it gives you that second breath, that second wind, to pull through sometimes when the ego gets really, which we'll also maybe talk about maybe another time, maybe this time, but like what happens, because sometimes the mind attacks. Sometimes like you will go into experiences that will make you feel like I never want to meditate, as I know what's happened to my grandma actually, who tried it once. She's like, so I tried it, I don't want to do it. Why? Nothing happens.
That's a
That's
lot of
another
people, not
common
just your
one, right? Yeah,
grandma.
nothing happened.
hmm Yeah, I love the word they use. There's a sweetness to sitting with the guru, the grace of the guru. In fact, in many traditions, there was no possible way to transmute knowledge or wisdom, uh, let alone meditation, except for this path known as Shaktipat, which is literally just sitting by the guru, and getting the transmission of their energy, their energetic being. It's like
The frequency.
that entrainment that you're not going to get with a $10 a year app. So
Yeah. And also, I think the other thing worth mentioning is to meditate together, to meditate with somebody,
mm,
even if they're not a guru. Maybe it's just your friend or your wife or your husband or whatever. It's like when you're doing it together, there is a sort of an amplified field, right? And it's like it makes it easier for both people. It makes it more real, more palpable. So I would also recommend that very much, to spend some time, maybe even just checking out meditation groups, to just connect with people who have been on the path.
yeah, highly agree with that. Boris, do you think there's an optimal? Let's start with how long somebody should meditate, and then optimal times. Should people be meditating in the morning or the evening? Which one do you think is more beneficial for people? Maybe there's drawbacks you want to talk about, but let's start with optimal time. Should it be 1 minute, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour? Those are very common ones.
Yeah, for a long time, I have kind of stepped away from the longer meditations, and very recently I've come back to, and it was almost to me like I felt so much resistance to go for an hour. I was like, oh no, a whole hour? What if I want to do something else? But I'm like, got it. 1 hour, sit down.
Mm, that's it.
And you know what, I have to say that there's something, I like the short meditations too. The short meditations are very refreshing, but the longer meditations, it's almost like you get to melt through layers. It's like nice and still and everything's beautiful for the first like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then uncomfortable, and then thoughts, and then different things. But typically you would be like, oh, I'm done, 15 minutes, I'm gone. But as you go through this, you're like, oh, this is not a good meditation, and eventually boop, you pop out. Maybe it's like 45 minutes, and it's like you pop out into a completely new space. It's more dense. It's more dense in terms of silence, dense in terms of like spaciousness. But like you somehow get to have digested whatever that was that came up. So I think that different meditation times literally are like, I would consider offering this thought that we can look at meditation also as dose dependent, just like we look at anything like sunlight, vitamins, water, like, you can get water poisoning, right? If you drink too much water, you flood your system and you can die. So I don't know if you can die from too much meditation,
Yeah, you might
but
become a Buddhist monk in a cave or a nun, but that's not what we recommend on this channel. Maybe if you want.
so like the different times of meditation will take you to different experiences. And I would certainly say that if like 1 minute or even 30 seconds is all that's available in terms of even your willingness, I would take that. That is better than nothing. Even as like Bentino and the freedom teachings are saying, like short moments of clarity, 2 to 5 seconds. Give up all thought for 2 to 5 seconds. Give up the focus point. Give up like past, present, future. Just be no one, nowhere, no time. And now you're back, right? Even those it's incredibly potent, especially if you can commit to it. You resonate with this. You're like, oh yeah, I don't like to sit. I don't want to get stiff legs. Okay, then penetrate your thought stream with this awareness. Just let there be nothing. Let you have no character, no past, no identity, and then you come back. So I would say, yeah, anywhere between like 1 second to like 1 hour is a really sweet time.
I love the way you shared that though, and you use the word like penetrate. If you guys want to visualize it, a lot of times in meditation they talk about an ocean, but I'll just use an analogy right now of like just digging like into dirt. So like Boris said, it's like you do a 5 minute meditation, you might get some peace and relaxation, and you've dug like this deep. Little do you know, on the 6th minute, there's like this huge like anxious we talked about in the last couple episodes a Buddhist term known as samskaras, which are literally scars in your like your you can think of in your emotional body or your spiritual body or something like that exists from way back when, like when you're a childhood, or even like last week where you had some food that you didn't like, and it created this emotional response in you that will then trigger in your future without you dealing with it. So meditation is like this tool that you can use to dig out these problems, and the longer that you do it, the deeper that you'll go. More traditionally, it's known as like the ocean of consciousness. So you can think of an ocean like this. And what is said in the tantric tradition is that most people live on the surface level of this ocean, and they're living their life. They're watching TV, Netflix, they're watching sports games, going out to drink, and life becomes very surface level. You talk about the weather, all that stuff. The point of meditation is to anchor yourself. Think of like an anchor, and it pulls you to the bottom of the ocean, so that you can experience the depth of what? Of yourself, of God, of all the things that should be real and true to you. For what purpose? Not to stay at the bottom of the ocean where you're anchored there and stuck, but for you to come back out of the ocean. They say the deeper that you can dive into the ocean, the further up you can ride the waves of life. And what are the waves of life? They are your 5 sensations that you have, or the 5 senses. And you want to ride those and milk them for the beauty that there's a reason God gave you 5 senses. So we want to experience them more rather than living on just the surface level of life. That's the reason I was taught we should be meditating.
Beautiful. I want to just also say in here, I think it's appropriate. Like we had a conversation earlier, I think, about like meeting something by chance or by choice. And meditation gives you the opportunity to meet these, what Mike's called samskaras, but like past impressions, trauma, fears, unprocessed emotional baggage, basically. Meet them by choice. And by choice, meaning like you just sit down by choice and know that it will arise. If you sit long enough, it will arise. There will be, and sometimes though, it will also arise as body aches. This is what's, been taught a lot in Vipassana. It's like sometimes the sanskaras can be experienced non-conceptually. So it's not like you're like, oh, I remember when I was 3 years old, this snake bit me, and then this. No, it could also just be like, oh, pain in my hip, right? And you just breathe. You breathe, you feel it, you don't resist it. And why do I say by choice and not by chance? Because by chance, what happens is that when we don't look, when we don't feel, when all we do is like numb out and live on the surface of life, don't care about what's happening underneath. But what's underneath, it is seeking liberation also, and it will like pop out of the ocean, and all of a sudden it's like there's like you're keeping these like beach balloons under the surface, and you're like, yeah, stay down, I don't want anybody to see. Boom, it like comes up and it hits you right in the nose, as circumstances in life, as triggers, as bad decisions, as reactions that you wish you never had. So it's I think a very beautiful self therapy that is also a big part of meditation, that literally cleanses, liberates this energy in a very safe way, because literally you're sitting on whatever, the couch, your meditation cushion, a chair, you're in a safe space, you're not being hunted, everything is cool, but inside you will feel the turmoil. So this is the beautiful contrast, to know the safety and to allow the inner turmoil, the inner suffering, volcano, fear, this guilt, shame, all of that to come up, to be seen, and just breathe. And you know what's going to happen? In a few moments, it's going to disappear. It is always impermanent. It has always got only a certain amount of energy, whatever it is that's stuck in there, whatever memory, whatever trauma, whatever, it's only limited. You are the only unlimited aspect here. Like, you have been here the whole time, from when you're a baby to now, and all of this in between, it's like passing before your eyes. So you know that you will outlast all experiences. And so you take your commitment, right? You take your sadhana and you're like, okay, I will just be here. And if your sadhana is 1 minute, magnificent. Make it the best 1 minute. If it's like 1 hour, wow, okay. It's okay if you sweat, if you cry, if you just want to, I just got to get up, I want to do something else. You just sit there. Oh man, it is going to be like probably one of the best gym workouts that you can do, because you're just facing yourself.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said with the inner turmoil, and oftentimes it's not conceptual, it's like a pain in the body. And the tantrics believe that as above, so below, so that the body is no different than the mind, is no different than the spirit. So I want to speak to the yogis, or the people that practice yoga out there, especially in the West. The entire point of the asana practice, of what as yoga, is so that you can open up the body and make it so comfortable that you can sit. The only point of the yoga asana was so that people could sit for longer periods of time. Imagine like you see the Da Vinci Man or whatever, this perfect body. I believe, I don't know if everybody believes this, but I believe that we are perfect beings. You may not have a perfect body right now, but the goal is that you attune your body so that it can sit for like an hour. That's not an easy task. You're gonna notice pains and stuff like that. But again, practice yoga asana, open up the body fully, sit for that hour. If you can sit for an hour in peace, that is a tremendous feat.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting. Like, God created us to do, like, sit, probably. Like, we shouldn't be in pain when we sit.
Yeah, and that translates into our other, experiences. It's like when you master yourself. And again, like, we're not setting the standard at 1 hour, but basically, like, whatever your threshold is, and you go a little bit beyond this will build your stamina for when you're in tough moments at work, in relationship, financially. Instead of reacting, instead of like flying off the handle, instead of like completely having a lobotomy where you're going into stress and fight and flight and complete reaction, you will have that extra moment, that gap, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I don't want to go there. That choice arises as a result of you practicing in this way, of you staying, oh, just a little bit more. I'm going to push through this. Yeah, the body says, or my ego says, so the monkey mind says, stop it, go away. Like let's go watch something. Let's go play this game. And you just another 2 to 5 seconds. It's a huge win, and you're going to see it. You're going to see it in your life.
Mhm. Let's move on to the next question, see if we can come up with some stuff. There's a lot of, again, meditation, you can see is such a broad topic. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Let's talk about some of the misconceptions about meditation. So maybe we can envision us as a new person getting into meditation. What do you think people misunderstand about meditation?
Well, sometimes I think some people may think like meditation is something like this, right? And it's like I'm looking for an experience that when I close my eyes, I'm just gonna be like something crazy is gonna happen to me, and they have all of these different expectations based on maybe nothing or maybe like pictures like this. And then they're sitting there and it's just them. And it feels disheartening, or it feels like, oh, like this is not fun, nothing's happening. So I think one of the misconceptions is this expectation that something is going to happen to me, something is going to be done to me if I meditate. I think that's one.
Okay. Another one that I can think of that I has happened a lot in my life is people think that meditation is essentially when I close my eyes and somebody sees me meditating, it's literally like empty. Is that meditation is like no thought. And that people that meditate can instantly, oh, he's meditating. That means there's no thoughts in his head. Well, actually, what meditation does, we touched on this, is it actually attunes you to be more sensitive to life, to more sensitive to your five senses. So when my eyes are closed, it makes sense that I've turned off one of my senses, that every other sense would be heightened. So if
Mm.
you're in a room and you're meditating, it's not that your mind is empty. Some people are like, are you okay? Like you're not doing anything, like your mind is empty. Well, actually, I can probably hear you breathing on the other side of the room. I can probably feel your
Mm.
energy. So that's one misconception, is that it's
Yeah.
full of emptiness, not full of fullness.
Yeah. And also, perhaps, like, second to that is the idea that we should be able to be like completely silent, or there should be no thoughts as we're meditating. And if there are thoughts, then we're not doing it correctly. This is also not true. It, Everything remains as it is. Thoughts come and go, sensations come and go, experiences come and go. Our goal is not necessarily to be caught up in a particular experience. Like if you have, in the Buddhist tradition, they say like, oh, if you're meditating and the Buddha appears to you, and there's the Buddha in front of you, is cut off his head,
Kill them. Yeah.
because what it is it's a distraction away from the real core of meditation, which is to discover that you are the Buddha. So if you see a Buddha in front of you, then this is just another play of the senses, right? So I'm not saying necessarily like if you see Buddha you should kill him, but because I don't know, I might like be like, hey, you know how's it going? Are you the real Buddha, or are you just some demon? but um but yeah, so basically this is maybe like a third one, which is like fascination with experiences, seeking after meditational experiences, like basically like psychedelic experiences, and being like, okay, well, if I'm not getting there, then I'm not, that's not the point of meditation, unless it is for you. But then, like, I would rather advise you to experiment with astral projection, with lucid dreaming, like that. You're going to have way more of like funky experiences when you're doing that. With meditation, it is literally about like realizing who and what we are before this personality, before this body, before this time, before anything, uh, and being able to live authentically from our fullness, from our oneness with God and with all being. So getting caught up in like sensations and experiences of meditation, I think, is another misconception, or looking for them and thinking that they are what meditation is.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, because a lot of people, they can go into like a dark night of the soul just by going so deep that they start labeling everything. They label their traumas, they label what they're doing in meditation. Everything becomes more complex rather than simpler. So
Mm.
one way to resolve that is that I found was just if you're going to label things as something that's more predominant. Like I used the word Shakti. Shakti is from the Tantra tradition. So anytime there was the Shakti is essentially your five senses, right? So anytime you have a thought, you have a feeling, it's like, no, that's just the Shakti. You don't have to like start labeling it. And then even like labeling yourself as a meditator. I know Bentino talks about this a lot. It's like, I am a meditator. I am doing right. I am
Mhm.
good. It's like that's not really the point of meditation.
That is your character. Like
That is your ego,
it,
yeah.
you can meditate on that. Like you can realize in meditation that that's not you. Um, as we meditate, we begin to see that there is something that is what we can call a character or an ego or a small self, which we in the earlier stages of our evolution thought that we are exclusively that. But you begin to see that it's not even that you're like not that. It's just that this is like, it's just like a video game character. Like when we're playing video games, yeah, like if Mike and I were playing right now, we'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna like get your guy, you know, or whatever. But we're not in the end confused that we are actually the game character. But in this dream, in this Maya, in this illusion, we do think that we are the game character, and we suffer when it suffers. We really think from its point of view. But meditation illuminates your awareness so that you realize the character is in you. All relationships are in you. The world is inside of you. And so you become this big space that embraces and holds all that is. And suddenly just you begin to realize that you are all that is. And so all of this sense of like competition and fear and hope, everything falls away and you realize it's perfect exactly as it is. I would say, you know, that is a much grander gift than having some light appear for you or seeing patterns or you know any kind of phenomenon.
I like what you're saying. It's like the one of my favorite meditations from you and many other teachers share this is expanding the sense of self. So don't use meditation to move deeper into the small self, the ego, and deal with all the problems and trauma. Yes, you can do that, but also know that there's meditations that expand your sense of self, of who you are, to escape this video game character that you once thought that you were. Um, what is that meditation called? Do you remember? It's like I think that the one Joe Dispenza also teaches, or is that a different meditations on space?
Well, are you talking about where you expand your awareness from like your body and then the room that you're
Mm,
in and then like the neighborhood? Yeah. I'm not sure
powerful.
what that name you know it has, but like yeah, it is literally expanding your awareness. I think that like the biggest anti-stress, anti-conflict, anti like any kind of thing that we would normally avert is this expansion. That's why I think like for me, Derek Rydell has been a big mentor in my life. And he says, like, one of his teachings is expand in the face of contraction. Something is appearing to you, and as you're like, and the invitation is to embrace the contraction, to realize, oh, the contraction is happening inside of me. Oh, this whole thing is, and we actually the problem resolves because the problem only exists for the small self when you realize that you're not just the small self. You realize that other people, let's say your beloved, is included in your sense of self. Then suddenly there is no problem. There is no this like tug of war because now it's like this arm and they're not in competition with each other.
Mhm. All right, we covered a lot. This is we're almost going on an hour. This is going to be good. Let's end with a couple more or just one more, and then we're going to be doing a lot more episodes on this, maybe more niche. We like to start broad on topics, and then when we find what you guys are enjoying, maybe we can check it through the analytics or some of your comments below. Then we can niche down. But um, do, maybe we'll end with one of these questions, Boris. How has meditation changed your life?
Oh wow. Um Meditation. Yeah, I really feel like somehow it's not that like I was never a meditator that is just kind of like, oh, I just have to do this. This is my duty. This is like my life. This is my everything. I was always just like very like, you know, yeah, I've had runs of commitment where I would say, okay, every day I'm meditating like this for X amount of time. Um, but I would gotta say that I think meditation has transformed my life in such a profound way. If I were to attribute the fruits of my ability to communicate, resolve conflict, read and understand other people, I really have to attribute it all to meditation, to the ability to just become still. And it's not that I become still in the midst of those situations and then like magical answers come to me. It's just that it's almost like preparing for a marathon. I really think about it this way. It's like we prepare, just like what you said, actually, to ride the waves of life. And that's what meditation, I think, gives you that strong sense of like groundedness, like a sense of refuge, sense of somewhere you can come back to always and come back to your center. And it from there, when you feel more safe, when you feel more familiar with who you are, you suddenly have this bandwidth. You suddenly have more capacity, more ability, uh more yeah, like RAM and more room on your hard drive to be able to engage with things in life that are not necessarily always pleasant. And even the pleasant things, you also know how to, you don't just go and indulge deeply into different addictions and things. Like you begin to have an awareness that as you're going deeper and deeper, and you're like, does this really serve me? Like you begin to have more of this guidance, this beneficence, this grace, not because you meditated and then the grace comes to you as a reward, but because grace is always already here, and you have become still enough, receptive enough to be able to hear it, to be able to receive, to be able to perceive. And as our perception changes, which I think is such a big part, that I would say in my meditation experience, it changed the way I looked at myself, at the world, at other people. And as that happens, literally, your experiences in life are completely different because you're coming to it from a completely different consciousness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. It's
How about
literally
you?
it's literally everything, right?
Yeah.
I think I share almost the exact same, obviously the same perspective, but if I would say it's like if you don't have the ability to consciously intentionally focus on something, then what do you have in your life? You're literally like pulled by the trillions of different ways that life can pull you. And so you said something which is like it's like sitting in the fire almost. One of my favorite symbols other than the cross, which represents like this stability and power for me, is the tantric symbol of the Shiva Nataraj. You can Google it, Nataraj. It's this character who's in the midst of a ring of fire around him, which represents life and it's suffering, again according to Buddhist and many different religions. He's doing a dance. Not only is he doing a dance, but his eyes are they're not shut all the way, but they're like in meditation, like half open, half closed. And he's basically finding his stability amidst the chaos in life. And I just want to say, well,
Mm.
this might not be for everybody. We'll go back to the first question of like, what is the best way to meditate? For me, what moved me deepest into meditation when I was first starting is yes, I went to that Buddhist monk who told us to count the thoughts. But right after that, I started meditating at the gym, the place where I would feel the most unsafe, where there's a lot of testosterone, a lot of people that might be judging you. After I would do an
Mm.
exercise, I would close my eyes and sit on the bench. And I would notice feelings of uncomfort, feelings of thinking that I'm being judged, feelings of like, what do people think that I'm doing? And all of
Mm.
these are representations of like what you experience in life, only you're consciously putting yourself in the ring of fire. And I think that's a great way to deepen and find a stability point, which is your meditation. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for pointing out Nataraj. I've seen this many times before, and I thought it was somehow like I thought it was a Kali symbol, but it's very, very beautiful. And yeah, that sense of dynamic
yes.
meditation, like dynamic but still conscious. And this is what I think is really the ultimate fruit of meditation, is that you realize that you're meditating all the time.
Yeah.
Like the meditation never ceases, it never starts. It is always so. And as through these like little touch points, you align with it, and over time you realize I was actually always there. Like that music has always been playing, but I just could never hear it. Now I hear, and what we're hearing is not necessarily some cosmic sound. It is the sound of silence. It is, silence, somehow is perceivable. Somehow it is, it is, yeah, it's something that then when we come into the world, we carry this silence, this peace with us. And it is also palpable for other people, and most definitely for ourselves. So I think that that is a beautiful with the Nataraja. I think that embodies this kind of space that we're bringing all of the fruits of the mountaintop, so to speak, mountaintop consciousness into the marketplace, speaking again very classically, and being able to engage fully with business, with relationships, with sex, with money, with finances, with everything, but not get attached to it and not get scared of it. Because what is there to get scared of? What is there to hope for or fear when you realize oneness, when you feel it palpably, when you have the sense of deep belonging and oneness with all things?
Ooh, shivers. All right, that's part one, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys really appreciated that. Again, if you like this episode, comment below, like, and subscribe. Boris, any last thoughts? Again, we will be putting out more meditation episodes in the near future. So,
yeah, I just want to encourage you to, if you found something here that makes sense to you, that resonates, please just sit down and experience it. Just even sitting down and just listening to the now. Just listen to this moment, not to the sounds of this moment, but the isness of the beingness of this moment. And I also do encourage you that if you want to go back in the repertoire of this channel, you're going to find some guided meditations that really are all based in this, and finding that meditation is already happening, finding it already here and now.
beautiful. We will leave like 1 to 3 links down below for you guys to check out, and maybe you guys can have a profound experience, and then leave your comments of what you experienced down below. All right, thank
Awesome.
you so much. God bless everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.